flaming cries, ladies and gentlemen. 3 weeks after Ronda fucking Rousey gets clitorised and head kicked by Holly fucking Ham in Melbourne, Australia, we got the biggest fight week in UFC history. 3 cards, night after night. It's going to be a lot of alcohol consumed and a lot of betting this weekend. And I'm going to go straight into it with the fucking Sheilas on Thursday night. Paige Van Zandt and Rose Namajunas. Now, Paige, pretty little thing that she is, I'm afraid she's going to get beaten this weekend because she hasn't fought anyone really of high quality, and I don't rate Felice Herrig as high quality, whom she decisioned. And I don't rate Alex Chambers. I don't rate Kaylin Curran. I don't rate Courtney Himes. Tisha Torres, she got beaten by decision. Tisha Torres is pretty much average. She's fighting Rose, and Rose only has a 3-2 record, but Rose is an animal, and she's been training very hard, and she's got a lot of talent and outstanding submissions. The kind of submissions Paige isn't going to be used to. Of course, she's going to be used to training against chokes, team alpha male, and whatever variations of guillotines you got. But the kind of things that Rose is going to go after, crazy arm bars, leg locks, heel hooks, all sorts of stuff. I don't think Paige is ready for that. And I'm putting my money on a Rose Namajunas submission. I think she's going to fight smart. She's not going to get done by the torrent of rage that is Paige. And Rose is going to get in a submission position and she's going to lock it in. And Paige is going to tap. And the world is going to be shocked. Rose is going to have to grow her hair back because she's going to be the hottest prospect in the women's division. But that's how that fight's going to go. And there's one fight I want to try and call before that, which is Jim Miller and Michael Chiesa. Jim Miller, he's coming probably towards the end of his career. Even though he's only 32, he has had a shitload of fights. 25-6 is Jim Miller. He must be coming up on records in the UFC because he's fought a lot in the UFC. Maybe 20 times I think he might have fought even in the UFC. Maybe slightly, around 20 times. He hasn't had a great ride as recently. It was the Donald Cerrone show when he was kicking him in the body, and then boom, a head kick and knocked him the fuck out. Then he lost to Beneil Dariush, the plodding kicker, kicked him into a unanimous decision. But he beat Danny Castillo just about with a split decision in his last fight. Now, I like Jim Miller. He's fighting Michael Chiesa. Chiesa, as they call him in the US. But Chiesa is the way I like to call him. Because it's an Italian name and we want to fucking call him by his real fucking name, huh? Anyway, Chiesa's had a decent enough run. Decent enough without being brilliant. Masvidal submitted him, but Masvidal's a step up in quality. But he's beaten the likes of Al Iaquinta in the UFC. You know what I'm saying? He beat Colton the Snooze Smith by submission. He beat Trinaldo by decision, who's a decision expert. He lost to Joe Lozon, though, by Dr. Stoppage. It was a vicious cut, I remember. I think he was probably winning that fight. Beat Mitch Clark to a decision. Now, Chiesa is a good fighter. He's very solid, but just think he's one step short of Jim Miller. Jim Miller's going to take him down, and Jim Miller's not going to get submitted because he's too experienced to get submitted. And he's going to win it by decision. I don't think he's going to finish Chiesa unless Chiesa makes a big mistake. But I reckon Jim Miller is going to win this by decision. So that's the 2 fights I'm going to call on Thursday night's card, which is a pretty decent card. Then we move to Friday night's card and we look at J-Lo, who's fighting Evan Dunham. Now, Evan Dunham has a very good win in his last fight against Ross Pearson. He fought very smart and nullified Pearson, who... people might say Pearson's an easy guy to nullify, but, Dunham managed to do it. And Dunham had been coming off a bad streak, basically. He got himself a couple of decent wins. Beating the likes of T-Bow with a split decision. That ain't easy beating T-Bow. But then he lost unanimous decision to RDA. He lost to submission to the Cowboy. And he lost by a vicious kick to the body from Barbosa. But those 3 fights, those 3 guys are elite fighters. Dunham is close to elite, but he's not quite elite. But he's going to beat pretty much everyone else who isn't elite. And J-Lo isn't elite because I mean, J-Lo's a very good fighter, and we've seen him beat good guys and do some great things. But when he comes up against the top guys, J-Lo just can't quite do it. If you look at his record, Al Iaquinta knocked him out. Michael Johnson beat him decision. Jim Miller beat him decision. Pettis knocked him out. George Sotiropoulos got a Kimura on him. Sam Stout decision him. And then you look at, he lost to Kenny Florian. And then you look at his wins. He's beaten the likes of Stevens, Melvin, Varner, Danzig, Chiesa, Gomi. But those guys are just not on the tier of elite. And maybe J-Lo and Dunham is pretty closely matched, but I think Dunham's just going to take him down and he's going to beat on him. He's going to get a decision. And J-Lo might try and do some crazy things. He might take a big elbow and could get knocked out. So, I don't know if I'm picking method, but I think Dunham's going to win this by decision. But he could knock J-Lo out because he's knockable out. He's been hit so many times in the head that... he can't take too much more. Even though Lauzon isn't the oldest guy out there. I mean, he's only 31, but he's 35 fights in his record and a lot of vicious beatdowns he's taken too. So anyway, my money's on Dunham. I'm just going to back him. Might have a side on a decision because I like him for a decision there. So, moving on. Barbosa versus the Cuckoo Ferguson. El Cuckooey. Like to call him the Cuckoo because he looks a bit like a cuckoo, actually, does Tony Ferguson. But one thing Tony Ferguson does is he brings it to the battle. He brings everything he's got. He's mean, he's skillful, he's got a good right and he's got a good left. And he's capable of knocking people out. He's capable of submitting people. And he's capable of going the distance with people. And if we look at the Cuckoo's record, he's got 6 wins on the trot. Danny Castillo by split. Trujillo, he choked him out. Tebow, he choked him out. And Josh Thompson, he got a unanimous decision. But is he elite? He lost to Michael Johnson by decision a while back. But we're talking 2012, 3 years later. And the way the Cuckoo trains, he's pretty sharp and he's pretty hungry. And he's improved a hell of a lot since then. So it's hard to bet against a guy like Ferguson. However, he's fighting Barbosa. And Barbosa is one of my favourite fighters just because he's an animal. And his kicks are the most vicious kicks in the UFC, full stop. Crow Cop, he supplemented his kicks with HGH. And anyway, he's done now, he's retired. He did have the vicious kicks, but Barbosa seems to have real vicious kicks. No juice, so far as we know. And I have a feeling that he is going to be able to knock out Tony Ferguson. And the reason, he hasn't knocked out anyone in his last 3 fights. He beat Bobby Green by decision. He lost to Michael Johnson by decision in a close one. He beat Felder in a close decision. He beat Evan Dunham with a vicious kick to the body. And he's beaten guys with leg kicks. He's hit guys into submission with leg kicks, which is beautiful. But it's the way Ferguson fights is the reason I think he's going to get knocked out in this. Unless, he can blitz Barbosa and really close the distance and totally just fuck him up with punches to the face and knock him out. That's one option. Might have a little side bet on an early round 1 Ferguson KO. But any other way I see this going is Barbosa winning because Ferguson isn't going to be able to defend the kicks. He might have been training them, but I just don't see his style of fight being able to handle them. I think Barbosa's going to land them and I think he's going to hurt. He's going to rock Ferguson. I reckon he's going to finish him with a knockout. So my money, my real cash money, Hong Kong, is going on Edson Barbosa. And once Barbosa wins this, he's high up in the mix and they're going to have to give him a big fight. We will have something juicy. Good luck to the Cuckoo. He's a good fighter on a good run, but he hasn't faced anyone like Barbosa before. He really hasn't. Best fighter he fought before was Michael Johnson. He got beat. Josh Thompson was on his way out. So, no, he can't beat Barbosa, and that's the call. That's the call for this one. Alright, we got the midgets in the main event. Frankie Edgar and Chad Mendes. Money Mendes, he's definitely a lot richer after that $500,000 after his last fight. And poor old Frankie's still pretty poor in general. Frankie needs to make some cash. Fortunately for Frankie, after he wins this fight against Mendes, Conor's going to be gone to another division. He's going to find it very hard to get that fight with a man that's going to struggle to make weight with no IV. And Conor, poor old Frankie, mightn't get that money fight. But he's going to win this one. And Mendes, we know Mendes is a good fighter. He's one of the best guys in the world, and he's a wrestler. The problem is his stand-up isn't as good as Frankie's. He can land a big shot, but the way Frankie fights these days, no one ain't landing shit on him. It's not the days when he's going in and getting clipped by the likes of Gray Maynard. Gray Maynard's been living off that clip for the last decade. But Frankie is in and out these days. He's fighting a bit more like Mighty Mouse with his footwork and his punching. So I don't see Frankie losing this fight. I don't really see him finishing Chad. Chad is one tough son of a bitch. But I don't think Frankie has the power to finish him. Unless he can just brutalize him on the ground for 5 rounds and finish him with a choke. I think it's going to be a Frankie Edgar, 5-round decision. And what next for Frankie after that? That's tricky because he's going to have a man who holds the title who's going to want to unify the belts up a division. Frankie's going to be sitting in limbo. He's probably going to be talking. He's going to be asking questions. But nobody's going to be giving him the answer. You're the man, the only man with the answer for this conundrum, Frankie. But you're going to beat Mendes. And Mendes is going to be in the wind after 2 defeats against the top guys in the division. And he's going to have to take himself a little rest and do some hunting and figure out what the hell he's going to do. And maybe drop some of that bodybuilding weight and drop down to 135. Because that's the weight Mendes should be fighting at. He's a bit overblown with the muscles at the moment. He should drop a little bit of that upper body weight. And I reckon he can make 135 and cause a much bigger problem with the kind of power he has. Nobody in the 135 division can take Mendes' power. That's where he needs to be. But for now, Frankie has got this down. And Frankie's going to be the number 1 contender in the division. And we'll see what happens after that. But moving on to UFC 194. What a fucking card. Unbelievable. It's the best card ever. And amazingly, nobody has pulled out just yet. It's probably because they all realise how much cash they're going to make. And if they pull out, they're only going to screw themselves. That's for the top few guys anyway. But there's no pull out so far. Touch wood. We only got 1 more week to keep the best card in history alive. I'm going to start off the calls with Frankie Sainz versus Uriah Faber. Poor old Uriah probably thinks he should be making a lot more money these days because he's such a popular fighter, but he's had a couple of bad losses in his career that have just stopped him 1 play short of winning the big prize. Barrow's beaten him twice. Frankie beat him in his last fight, 5-round decision. But he's not going to lose on the biggest card ever in the UFC. He's fighting Frankie Sainz, a wrestler. Frankie Sainz is going to get punched and he's going to get kicked as he comes in for takedowns. And I think Uriah is going to win this fight in a big way. I think Uriah's going to be hella motivated. He's going to be looking at McGregor. He's going to be tired of taking so much shit off him in the last few months. Piss constantly ripped out of him. He's going to be motivated to win. And he's going to win in style. I think he's going to hit Frankie with a choke. And Frankie's probably been practicing, but I don't think he's used to the kind of chokes that the likes of Faber can lock up. So Faber, 2nd round choke, boom. It's going to start the main card off very nicely. Next fight, Max Holloway is back again. Max Holloway is on some run of fights since he lost to Conor on Fight Night 26 back in the day. He had a couple of easy enough wins. Up to Akira Corisani, who knocked out. He's a weak fighter and is retired now. But then he fought Cole Miller. He beat him to decision. Cole Miller's a tricky, tough guy. Hard to beat. Holloway beat him. Then he schooled Cub Swanson. Absolutely schooled him. Big shock. No one thought that was going to happen. But Holloway showed his improvements, showed his technique, and he was outstanding. And then he fought Charles Oliveira. And something went down with Charles Oliveira. I think he's got a hole in his throat or something weird. So he won that fight in the 1st round. So that's a bit up in the air what happened. But his win over Cub Swanson shows that Max Holloway is the real fucking deal. And he's fighting someone else who's the real deal. And that's Jeremy Stephens, who I'm a big fan of Jeremy Stephens. In his last fight, he landed a huge knockout against Dennis Bermudez. It was a wonderful punch in the 3rd round. Just when it looked like it wasn't going to go his way, landed a huge punch. And the thing about Stephens is he's willing to take a beating to land that one punch. And he's got vicious power. He has trouble making weight. He does have trouble making weight, but that's why he's able to knock people out because he's so heavy and he's so solid. He packs such a punch. Now he lost 2 decisions. He lost once to Charles Oliveira by decision, and he lost to Swanson by decision too. But Oliveira tried to submit him a number of times, and he wasn't submittable, Stevens. He's an outstanding submission defense. Not that Holloway's a big submission guy. Holloway's going to try and keep his distance. He's going to move very well, and Stevens is going to find it very hard to hit him. But I'm going to, if I wanted to really put my house on this, I'd probably say Max Holloway by decision. 3 rounds, a very upset and, frustrated Stevens. But really what I think is going to happen, maybe it's just the gambler inside me, but I think Stevens is going to knock out Holloway. It's going to be a big shock. Stevens is going to roar like a lion in the cage, and he's going to just go ape shit. And that's what I think is going to happen. And then he's going to fly up the rankings a little bit. He's going to have a big fight. Maybe he'll fight the likes of Frankie. Who knows? But I think Stevens is going to knock Holloway out. Has Holloway ever been knocked out? Let's have a quick look. No, he hasn't. So the odds should be pretty nice. And when he does knock him out and you win a big chunk of cash, remember who told you. And you can send me stamped addressed envelope, whatever you want. So, what do we got after that? We got Damian Maia on the card. The jiu-jitsu genius. Who's he fighting now? He's fighting another jiu-jitsu genius, Gunnar Gunny Nelson. A man who has better striking than Maia. And is probably not going to get submitted by Maia either. But, however, if Maia can get him down, Maia can dominate position. That is for sure. He is the master of control and dominating position. What I do think, though, is that he's going to have a big problem getting Nelson down. And Nelson is going to use his footwork, and he's going to use his better striking. He's going to use his in-and-out karate techniques, and he's not going to be so silly as Neil Manny was. You watched Neil Manny against Maia in the last fight. Manny was like, what are you doing, bruh? What are you doing, bruh? He just got taken down at will. It was like slow-mo takedowns. He engaged with Maia when he shouldn't have engaged, and he kept on getting taken down. It was poor from Manny, and he was on a great streak, and he shouldn't have lost that fight. Or at least he should have done better. But maybe I'm underestimating Maia's beautiful jiu-jitsu and grappling techniques, which we know are, maybe he has the best jiu-jitsu ever in the UFC. He certainly has the best control, and he knows what he's doing more than anyone I've ever seen. But Nelson is top drawer in terms of his jiu-jitsu. And I think that this is going to be a stand-up fight. Maia's going to be forced to box, and Maia doesn't have the cardio to box, nor does he have the discipline. And we're going to see Nelson land punches, and he's going to land kicks, and he's going to dance, and he's going to move, and it's probably going to be a decision for Gunny. One way or another, he's going to win. Whether he can knock out Damian in the last round when Damian is tired, and he can come in with a nice heavy point strike karate style to the face and knock him down and finish him, I don't know. But probably, the smart money is on a Nelson decision here. But it should be a good fight, if a little tactical. But I like the tactical fights. That's what it's going to be. But the money's on Nelson, and that's where it's going. So the next fight, oh my word. Jacare versus the Soldier of God. The Soldier of God, possibly my favourite fighter in the UFC. He is just off the charts in every way. His last fight against Machida was just a thing of beauty. He beat Tim Kennedy with the whole Stoolgate affair. It was great entertainment, let's be honest. To see, I love Jesus, I love you, Tim Kennedy, I love you. He loves everything. He especially loves Jesus. He's been told to tone the Jesus talk down, though. Told to tone it down because Dana doesn't think anyone wants to hear about Jesus these days, especially after a fight. But Romero's the soldier of God. We got to remember that. There is only one soldier of God, and it's him. But he's fighting Jacare, Ronaldo Souza, a guy who has unbelievable jiu-jitsu. Just slick and beautiful. He's submitted the likes of Mousasi. He submitted Chris Camozzi in his last fight, which is kind of a sham, but Camozzi was a late addition to the card. And let's have a look at Jacare's recent record. He's got 8 wins on the trot. 4 of those, 3 of those in Strikeforce, 5 in the UFC. Now, he is fighting for the title if he wins this fight, but so is Romero. Both of these guys are scary as hell. Probably both of them juiced out of their minds. But who cares? If both of them are, it's good. It's a nice even battle. Jacare's last loss was against Luke Rockhold. The Soldier of God, he lost to Rafael Cavalcante by KO 4 years ago. But what a lot of people don't know about the Soldier of God is his brother is a world champion Cuban boxer. And many people know, many of the best, certainly the best amateur boxers in the world have all come out of Cuba. The ones that aren't Irish, of course. But the Cubans can fight. Yoel can fight. And, as you know, he outstruck Machida, a guy who'd been striking for his whole life. If you want to even attempt to grapple on the feet with Romero, you're going to get fucked. Basically is what he's going to do. Now, Jacare, once it gets to the ground, Jacare is perfectly capable of submitting Romero. But I think Romero's too powerful and too strong for Jacare, and he's just going to beat him. And Jacare is going to get knocked the fuck out by Yoel. I mean, Yoel wants to go in here and win this in style. It's a big night. Jesus is on his side. So Romero for the win. I actually think Romero's unbeatable now. With the boxing training, the grappling, the skill, the power, the speed, the agility, everything. I think he's unbeatable. I think he's going to win the title within the next year. Because after this fight, he's going to fight whoever wins the title fight in that division. And that's going to be Romero. Soldier of God. We're going to be hearing a lot about Jesus, a lot about Joseph, the Holy Trinity, Bethlehem, the manger, everything. That's what Yoel's going to be telling us about, but he's going to win his fights in style, so who gives a fuck, really, what he talks about after the fight. Anyway, my call is Romero by knockout, punishing, brutal knockout on Ronaldo. Maybe you can have a little side bet for Jacare to win by submission. Wouldn't be a bad idea just to cover yourself, but Romero's my favourite every time here, every time. Okay, Weidman and Rockhold. Let's face it, an outstanding fight, an outstanding matchup. Weidman is doing things a little bit differently this time. And it's interesting because Rockhold thinks he's slow, and I think Weidman might be a little slow as well. Or maybe it's just he's deceptive. He just looks slow, but he's in fact very fast. Because he did knock out Anderson Silva. And Anderson Silva thought he was too fast for him. And maybe Anderson Silva thought he was slow, and then once he got in the ring, he's like, wait a minute, this dude ain't slow at all. And he got fucked up and he got knocked the fuck out. So this could be Rockhold's mistake, and he might be going in there overconfident. But I do think Rockhold's a bit better than Weidman, a bit faster. But Weidman is trimming down for this fight. He's not walking around with as much weight on. He's only got, as far as I know, he's only got 7 or 8 pounds to lose in the weight cut. So he's a lot lighter. He's gonna have more cardio. Probably felt the fight with Machida. His cardio wasn't great after he dropped a lot of weight. Although he did take a few blows in the last round, so who knows. But Weidman's going to be a bit leaner. It's going to be a bit quicker. And what can he do to Rockhold? Because Rockhold has this brilliant jiu-jitsu, kind of vicious jiu-jitsu. And we've seen him finish guys with submissions, you know, the likes of Machida, Bisping, Boach. His last 3 fights, all pretty good submissions. But then again, he's got vicious leg kicks, beautiful leg kicks. But Weidman's tough. Weidman can take a few of those kicks, and he will strike back and he will hit Rockhold in the face. And if Rockhold is dancing a lot, he won't be able to throw those kicks. And I think Weidman's going to try and make this a boxing match, and he's going to try and make it a cage grappling match. A lot of dirty boxing. A lot of cage work. He's going to try and tire out Rockhold against the fence, and that's how he's going to try and win this fight. Because he doesn't really want to take him down, sit in the ground. Because if Rockhold's jiu-jitsu is as good as everyone thinks it is, you know, you want to be watching out for those triangle chokes and arm bars off the ground. And, yeah, so I don't think Weidman wants to bring the fight there. I also don't think Weidman wants to fight at a distance where he's taking a lot of leg kicks, kicks to the body. Because he can take a few, but he can't take too many off the likes of Rockhold. So, you know, he's got to be careful there. And, yeah, my cash is going on Weidman up against the fence. Grind it out and then rock Rockhold in about the second or third round, and then he's going to finish him. And Rockhold's going to have a sheepish look in his face. But that's how it's going to go down, and that's what's going to happen. Weidman is going to hear the still, and he's going to be a happy man, and his recent abstinence from booze is going to change, and he's going to be hitting the champagne Saturday night, But he's not going to hit it until he has watched the main event. And he probably thought he would have been the main event, but not anymore. Not these days when Conor McGregor is around and he is running the show. And he's fighting Jose Aldo. Jose looks like he's going to turn up. We're all pretty worried that something might happen later in the week. Not sure if he's touched down in Vegas yet. I think he might have touched down. But this is it. Aldo and McGregor. Only flyweights, but maybe the biggest fight in the UFC's history. I think it might be. I think it might well be. And we should have the biggest pay-per-view numbers. With a card like this, if people aren't paying for pay-per-views, then I don't know what they're doing on Saturday night. I really don't know what they're doing. Picking their nose. But they're not watching good fights, and that's what they need to be doing. Anyway, we have a great battle. Jose Aldo, some say the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. It's a toss-up between him and Mighty Mouse. Mighty Mouse is probably better, let's face it. But Aldo hasn't been beaten in since I can remember. I don't ever remember seeing him losing a fight, to be honest. He did lose a fight back in 2005, so 10 years since he lost a fight by rear naked choke. His only defeat. Since then, beaten the likes of Mendes, Lamans, Frankie, Mendes, Florian, Hominick, Gamburian, Faber, Brown, Swanson. He's fought all the top guys and he's beat them all. But his last 4 fights, he hasn't been as good as he might have been. You know, he's not knocking dudes out like he used to. And he's gone the distance a lot. In fact, since he came to the UFC, he's gone the distance once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times in 8 fights. So, you know, Jose, I don't know what to think of Jose anymore. And to be honest with you, I think he's had his supplements, and I don't think he has them this time, and I don't think he's going to have that extra knockout power. So I don't think he can win this fight. I really don't see how he can win it. His Conor fights southpaw, so he's going to be kicking into that leg, and he's going to, if he fires too hard, he's going to break his leg. He almost did against the Zombie. He didn't like kicking that leg at all, so his biggest weapon is gone. Now, Jose has some good punches, very powerful punches. He can sit people down in their ass, he can knock people out. But I don't think anyone in the division, if Chad Mendes can't knock out Conor with his big head, I don't think Jose Aldo can knock him out either. Don't think he has the reach. I think his best weapon is going to be not going to be able to be used. And I don't think Conor's going to be there when he throws the punches. Now, Conor sometimes is willing to take a punch too many, just, I don't know why. Well, he can land his own when he does. And since people can't knock him out, you got to give him his props for his confidence. He just take a punch and he'll come back and he'll kick the fuck out of them. And he's done it in every one of his fights so far. Pretty much everyone he's fought has caught him. Even Brimage caught him. Brandao caught him flush. I think he knocked out a tooth. Poirier caught him pretty solid. Seaver caught him mostly with kicks. But Chad Mendes hit him at least 3 solid, full-force blows in the face. I don't think Jose has more power than Chad. I don't think Jose can knock Conor down. And the only way he's standing with Conor, the only way he's lasting 5 rounds with Conor is if he somehow becomes a wrestler and he can hold him down. But Jose Aldo is not going to sit in full guard for 5 rounds, throwing 1 punch every 25 seconds. Jose Aldo only knows one way to fight. And that, you know, it's kicks, it's punches, and there's a bit of jiu-jitsu here and there. But this is going to be a stand-up battle. It's going to be a stand-up battle. And I think he's going to take a beat down. I don't think he's got his juice box. And I think that's going to prove to be very effective. McGregor is going to come out. He's going to close the distance. He's probably going to throw some sort of spinning kick to the face to start the fight with. And, you know, I just see him being too big, too strong, too powerful for Aldo, and he's going to give the champ his first defeat in 10 years. Now, you know, maybe there's a chance Jose knocks out Conor. 1 in 10, I'll give it. 1 in 10 at most. If I had to bet the house, I'd bet it on McGregor finishing this inside 2 rounds. I think he's going to finish him in the first round as opposed to 2. I'm not sure Jose can take the power. I'm not sure he can take a big punch. Chad caught him and sat him down on his ass. And I don't think Jose can take Conor's power. And he's going to come. He's tough. He's going to come to fight, but he's not got the size. He's not got the power. And this is going to be a McGregor KO. And then we're going to hear about it for a long time. And then he's going to fight for the lightweight title. And when he fights for lightweight, then we're going to see some really interesting fights, because we're going to see guys who have the power to knock anyone out in the division. But until then, none of these featherweights have the power to knock him out. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, a lot of alcohol, a lot of weed, and a lot of gambling. Time to win some serious cash. Enjoy it all, people.